What are we talking about?
In the public court, it is very difficult to avoid an argument that political parties contribute to the crisis of democratic governance of a developing country like Uganda. This is strongly based on the history of multi-party system of politics in Uganda.
So right from the beginning, the parties were never started on firm ground, and we never understood them. So you are asking, your question is basically the local people do not understand parties because they had their system of government through kingdoms. Yes.
So who changes the narrative and when was that?
It never changed. Okay. Because when we came in 1960, we had the same problem.
The Uganda People's Congress and the Democratic Party are pioneers of political parties defining the roots of party politics in Uganda. But the foundation of these pioneer parties was based on religious differences that set a precedence of division. Veteran politician Captain Francis Babu recalls.
And we came up with what it is until today. And by the way, I would like to say this, we've never understood parties. And until today, we are still pulling and pushing. We don't like each other. We use sectarian politics.
Captain, isn't it a strong statement when you say we've never understood
parties?
We've
never. Just show me which party is running. Show me. Show me which party is really running as a party.
What's the foundation of these parties from 1986?
Hatred. I don't like you, therefore I form a party. And what is the party for? If you look at their manifestos and what, they are virtually the same. What they are looking for is we must get in power and get rid of these people.
But why has it been hard to change the narrative and secure a stable democratic process?
So you cannot say that people who practiced multipartism more than 60 years ago, that they are not ready in this century. You see, even if Uganda was under one-party system like almost it is, because of the indiscipline of leaders, you will still have the same problems that you have. I don't think it is parties that are shooting people on the street during elections, or that it is parties that are violating people's rights and stealing money.
The management of the transition from a movement system to a multi-party system of governance should have been discussed. We should have started that like in 1996. That would have given us about 8 years in which to prepare. Train leaders, prepare the country psychologically, but also through civic education. Prepare people's minds to know that, you know what, there's going to be competition for power. They'll start agreeing on the rules that will be laid down.
It is evident that to achieve a stable democratic process, the political system must have elements favoring a healthy political competition and popular participation. What is Uganda's position?
Oh yeah, I mean right from 2004 until now. The environment has been hostile to the practice of multi-party system of governance. And even as we speak, I can see the turbulence which a number of parties are in.
Yep.
And I know that the regime has a hand in most of those controversies which are going on, I know.
Parties, almost all of them, because you see, the first Political Parties and Organizations Act, I was in Parliament as a journalist. The trouble that it faced was that in the mind of Museveni, he had wanted political parties to operate at their headquarters. It is only that the court said, no, you can't have a party that is headquarter-based. So Museveni reluctantly and publicly allowed that political parties can mobilize, people can associate because it is in our constitution, but practically is infringing on the rights of parties to associate, to mobilize. So for him, parties should only operate during elections.
There are a number of parties that continue to promote radicalism and extremism in our politics.
But Dr. Chris Baryomonsi, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, debunks claims that the NRM fuels infights in the opposition parties. Baryomonsi says the NRM is open to work with everybody, irrespective of political dimension.
But the original idea and thinking of NRM is that we should embrace everybody, so that everybody makes a contribution in the prosperity of this country. So even when we transited into a political organization, we don't find it a problem working with the members of other political parties. The intention is not to kill those political parties. The intention is to enable everybody to make a contribution.
Uganda is among the nations benefiting from both local and external financing of its democratic governance. Organizations like IPOD and civil society forums in line with the democratic governance have for many years championed the agenda of a healthy political environment. But the efforts are seemingly undermined, especially by corruption and weak institutions of governance. Veteran politician Wafula Ogutu narrates that the factors originate from a feeling that basic material needs must be met before the societies can practice democracy.
I pay tax. When an old woman buys salt, pays tax, that money is collected here, but it's not spent first and foremost on them. It is spent on a few people here. That is what we are fighting against.
Balancing human development and human freedom is also a concern which political players think has factored slow growth of democracy in Uganda.
The president is supposed to not only just guide the constitution and we eat and sleep safely. He's supposed to build the people, to build the people he rules into better people than he found them. People who first and foremost who must hold their leaders accountable, whereby you build a proper society which is fair to all. And the president should do that in various ways. How he conducts himself in leadership, the education he gives people, the way he relates to people, the way he wants people to relate. He's a father of the country.
The discussion of the commercialization of politics has been renewed by government as the recent Chankwanzi retreat, which featured ministers and other political players, discussed plans to introduce stringent laws to end the vice.
That has become a question of money and the attendant risk that comes with that you may miss getting good leaders, but you only get those who are able to pay off for the vote. One such a law is to cap the campaign finance. How much should a candidate be allowed to spend during elections?
Alliance for National Transformation political party boss, General Mugisha Muntu, says most leaders lack management skills and thus easily trapped in the commercial politics.
First, you have to have the skills within the leaders to detect what could become controversial within an organization. And then have the internal environment in which any issue under the sun can be discussed. And you build a consensus. To detect any, from any angle, any hostile action from outside to infiltrate you. Whether it's through the use of money, whether it is through use of disinformation to create instability within the leaders. You have to have a mechanism to detect that, and also you have to have the skills to diffuse it.
Last year, the Democratic Party president, Norbert Mao, publicly entered into a working relationship with the NRM party to foster democracy. This move, accompanied by many other scenarios where members of the opposition work with the ruling government, has been deemed as part of commercial politics.
Uncontrollable violence should be left to animals. Human beings should have dialogue.
So, the question is, why do we go into politics? We go into politics to make a contribution to make Uganda better. If you can make a contribution by joining hands with another political party, there should be no problem.
We can compare our visions. The vision of the NRM is very well stated. What is the vision of the others?
In addition, government wants the public to stop burdening leaders with disguised fundraising events, which in turn are exchanged for votes.
These Harambe activities, fundraising events, which sometimes border on extortionist activities, especially where leaders are expected to pay huge amounts of money which they do not earn, and that can tempt them into corruption tendencies and abuse of office.
Such discussions and progresses in the democratic governance are not coincidental as Uganda gears up for the forthcoming general elections in 2026.
And what has been the message from the other parties? It is Museveni again, Museveni must go, NRM must go. That cannot be an ideology. What if he goes? Yes, time will come, he will go. So will you round up your party and also go because he has gone?
Daniel Mugoya, UBC News.